All right, everybody, episode number 35. We are so excited. Here we are once again, just talking about some metal. Hey, don't forget to go check out the Facebook page, check out the X page, Instagram, all the social medias, TikTok. We got the morning commute going every day. A new album to listen to. If you're like me and you like to listen to something new every day, that's a great place to start. And yeah, like and subscribe to the video. We appreciate it very much. And with that,
if you're into that, so if this sort of thing, check out our OnlyFans also.
Oh yeah, the OnlyFans page that we're working on. Yeah. Brandon has some socks he's showing off.
Yes. Yeah, that's on our feet finder. That's over on our feet finder. The OnlyFans
What's that handle?
More Brandon. Yeah.
Oh goodness.
The OnlyFans is Brandon's backside mostly for now, but we're gonna upgrade it. We're gonna upgrade it pretty soon.
We've got some ideas.
We waxed him last week.
Oh man, that's too much. That's too much. Well, hey guys, you know that is fun. That is exciting, but we got something. We've got something even better for you here tonight because we have Matthew with us, and Matthew's in a great band. Matthew McClure with Burial Path, and hey, they're a great, awesome, brutal band that really has some cool like post-apocalyptic vibes in it too, you know, doominess and you know, haunting melodies and stuff, and you guys really got to check them out. But he's here with us tonight. We're going to talk some metal. We're going to talk about some things that they do and just what they've got coming up on the horizon. So we're super excited. Matthew, why don't you take a second and say what's up?
Hey, thanks for having me on. Glad to meet y'all, and glad for this opportunity to do this interview with y'all.
Yeah, man, likewise. We're so excited. We always get so excited to have people on, and each episode I feel like it just gets more and more and more exciting. Not that any of the other ones are any less exciting, if that makes sense, but it's just, you know, getting a chance to do it again and talk a little bit more and see another side of it, and it's become like one of my most favorite things. And then, like I always say, I want people to see it. I want them to walk away and check out some new music. Like, that's kind of the idea behind it. And also just hang out for a second, you know, get to know each other. And yeah, so all is good in the neighborhood. Here we go. Brando, why don't we talk about some questions?
Okay, sounds like a plan. Matthew, thank you for coming. As we've already said, you know, it's great to have you here. Why don't you start with telling us about how Burial Path kind of got started, where did it come from, and about you guys.
So it started out as just an online project. It was me and my buddy Eddie Dietz. He was in another band, I was in another band, but we wanted to do something more tailored to our interests and likes. So the Luminary and the Seeker work, we both were writing on those. He definitely did most of the writing because I was supposed to be the producer, but I added my little tidbits here and there. But those two songs are about 2 years old by the time we released them, just because that project never took off. We just kept working on the songs, but nothing ever happened. His other band started really taking off, so he had to dip he just didn't have enough time to do that project. And I had tried a few members. Nothing was really catching, and it was kind of bumming me out because we had spent so much time on the tracks. And then I was doom scrolling like we all do on TikTok, and I came across Aisha's profile and saw her doing some of her covers and her screams. I was like, geez, like, this is insane. I didn't ask her to be part of the project right away. It started out with just something simple where, for my other band, we just asked her to do a vocal feature. She said she'd be down. The work dynamic was fantastic because I was a little skeptical at first because there's been other times we've tried to ask other people to do collaborations that weren't in state, so I couldn't have them come over and record and track. But her workflow was very good and efficient, kept good communication, and the overall process it went so well that finally I was just like, hey, I'm got all these other songs here. Would you like to be part of a project full time? It took her a little bit kind of skimming over to see if that would work, and then finally she said yes, and then I was able to fill up the rest of the members. So like the drummers, my drummer from my other band, and then the other guitarist, he's just been a good friend in the music scene I've known forever. And then that's when Burial Path took off. We we officially were all together working on plans back in 2023, but we didn't become public until March 2024.
Very cool. All right, it's a cool story. So you said in state. I know from y'all's bio on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, it's Nebraska and Texas, right? So
Yep.
I know Aisha's from Texas because I know I've seen her with like the Zebullion Triangle and stuff here in Houston. So are you in Nebraska?
Yes, the rest of the members were all from Nebraska. Actually all in the same town, so it makes it super convenient when we need to do tracking, recording, and mixing.
Okay, very cool. Awesome. So that's good that it works out so smoothly with her being here and y'all way up there. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about you and your journey into like metal and like being a fan and also becoming a musician.
It's a pretty interesting story. When I was younger, my parents were pretty conservative on what kind of stuff I listened to. So for the longest time, I would just have my little CD recorder, go out to tasseling in cornfields, and I'd only listen to Weird Al because that's all I knew at the time. And then I was at someone's house and had the radio going. I think it was the radio, but then I heard Lamb of God play for the first time. And once I got a taste of that, it never looked back. There was no other genres or anything I tried looking into. It was just wanted to live, breathe metal. 2008, I finally tried starting in a band. I joined only knowing 3 chords. And of course, it was a punk rock band because I couldn't play any of the metal riffs and stuff. So from 2008 to about 2016 was mainly just being with friends. We'd like to go drink it, go to bars, play shows there, but it was never anything really serious. And then 2016, I started taking an interest into recording because we saw the prices at the studios, and I was like, man, I'm broke as hell. I can't afford to keep doing this kind of stuff. And then up into 2019, that's when I got into my other band and Keeper of the Morgue, and that was where I kind of shifted to being a little bit more serious. That was when I started going in from like the rock and punk into the deathcore scene, and that was a really fun experience. And it was picking up in speed, but with everyone's life pulling in different directions. Like our other vocalist, he got married, he got a promotion at his job, just bought a house, so that band kind of had to go on the back burner. And then that leads us to Burial Path, and Burial Path has just kind of been cumulative of a whole bunch of different genres and tastes that I've liked. A lot of friends sharing bands and stuff that, just kind of cherry picking. It's like, ooh, I kind of like this from this band, or I kind of like this element from this genre. And we were able to, it's been cool because we've been able to sit down and just kind of put all our thoughts out there. It's like, this is kind of what we want it to sound like, and this is kind of what we want our intent with a lyrical message to be.
Awesome. Well, that's pretty cool. Quick summary of your journey. I like it. Weird Al too. I remember I was into Weird Al for a while.
It's so darn catchy.
Absolutely.
The Amish Paradise? Huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
That one, or like a Surgeon, like the old ones.
Oh, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Can't
That's
forget
too funny.
I have a question real quick, since you mentioned you guys were all in Nebraska and then she's down there in Texas. Have you guys gotten together and like jammed in person?
Not officially. The only thing we've gotten to do together so far has basically just perform for the music videos.
Okay, because that's what I was going to say. I know I saw you guys in a group, doing that.
Yep. This next time coming up, now that we have 3 and our live rig is a lot more built now for our in-ears and backing tracks, we're going to see if we can go to the drummer's house and run through the 3 and see how well it works together. Like, 'cause, it's always way different from a real live setting versus, hey, we're playing to a track and we're just kind of mimicking what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you guys have future plans to ever play shows?
We do. I can't give out specific dates, but towards the end of next year, we have a decent length run that we're planning on doing.
Cool.
It's all DIY, so it's all fingers crossed that, either I can find resources to get in contact with promoters and they actually, communicate back, or see how it goes. But that's the plan so far.
Sick. Yeah, I was just curious. There's questions popped up as you were giving your answers back. I didn't mean to interrupt there, Brando.
You're all good, man. Ask away.
Cool,
Zoomy's
cool.
usually really good at jumping in with questions too.
Well, yeah, that's awesome, man. Hopefully, you guys get to get that tour going. Come through Tulsa, Oklahoma, if you can.
That's pretty close. Where again, I don't want to get out specifics, but that was definitely one of the areas we're looking at.
Yeah, the OKC has a good scene.
That's good, yeah. Because I'm pretty green to going outside of Nebraska, so I'm not quite got down to states or cities on what's metal friendly and what's more pop or grunge or rap.
Right.
Yeah, the OKC scene is actually impressed, I feel like, as of late. Most of the shows I've been to, it's been a really good turnout. A lot of people there supporting the bands. A lot of people spending money on merch, just all good stuff, man. And most importantly, the sound. The sound of the music is, been awesome. And so, 89th Street, that was a venue that, I've said even on here before that I used to hate it because of the sound, but they did something. They changed ownerships, I believe, a few years back is what it was. It might have even been a little bit longer than that now, but I want to say post-COVID time. But anyway, sound in there is so much better, and you can actually enjoy bands whenever you go and see them, and I think that helps. That brings more people to the shows too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Peeling Flesh, so shout out to them, OKC. They brought a lot of people into the metal scene too because they just took off so big, and people started going to more metal shows because, for one, they were playing, and then whenever they were playing and they got so big, people started listening to more of the metal music and kind of branching out shows or remembering, right? Hey, shows are fun. I forgot how much fun shows are, and so they going back to shows again.
Yeah, Tulsa actually has had some pretty good crowds lately too, which is surprising, and it's good to see. But yeah, it's interesting. Texas, I think all three of us would agree that Texas is Dallas and Houston are great metal scenes. The people go absolutely ape shit. It's good. Texas is always a hit for tours for sure.
So what about where are you from in Nebraska?
All three of us are from Omaha.
Omaha, okay. So, what about the metal scene there? What's the metal scene there like?
I want to say it's pretty good. There's definitely you got the different levels where you got the smaller bands that are starting out, and they pull a decent crowd because they got some fans and friends that are nice and loyal to them. They'll come out and they'll bring some friends with them. Then you got the intermediates where the shows are getting bigger, but it still kind of feels hit or miss whether friends and fans are going to come out to their shows. And then you got the higher tier where the bands everything's just kind of clicking. They're clicking as a band, they're clicking logistically, and they're clicking with that business mindset. And those are where say a 600 cap room, they're actually filling out these rooms just as locals. So it's cool to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really cool. I always like to hear about the different scenes of all the places where everybody else is from, and a lot of the bands we talked about are from Texas, so and we've gotten to talk to a few up in New England, but that you're definitely the first one from Nebraska.
Heck yeah.
Cornhusker fan?
I'll be honest, I'm not really a sports guy.
Hey, that's not a bad answer either. You know what I'm saying? That's not a bad answer, because sometimes being here in Norman, Oklahoma, they are all about. Actually, I won't even talk about it. But I'll just say it's sometimes a little too much, and you're like, why are you upset about a game that? I know that they're not kids, but they're really they're kids. They're young. So
people go nuts over it though. It's ridiculous.
And it'll ruin their entire day, and you're like. It doesn't even matter, It's like a game that a bunch of kids are playing.
Yeah.
Or even the temper tantrums people will throw over these games.
Or you hear about these fights, that people get into, this side versus that side, and you're like, oh my gosh, man.
When I went to the OU game, we got blown out. It was 2 interceptions to touchdowns in the first 5 minutes, and then we lost another one. So it was 0 to 21, and 2 OU fans were literally fist fighting within the first 3 minutes of the game, each other, and I was like, this is amazing. It was a good time. It's a good time.
A new reason to go see the games though, to watch all the people lose their minds.
Yep, that's for sure.
Write a song about it.
Write a song about it. There you go. That's so funny.
Maybe I'd go if their beer wasn't so darn expensive.
Yeah, you know what? That's something
no
else.
kidding.
If you want people to come, Lower the beer prices, man. You serve some cheap water. Just water it down. Water it down and sell it for half price. Jeez.
And I know stuff in Nebraska is cheaper, but still, when they're taking just one of those 12 fluid ounce cans and they put it into a cup and it doesn't even take the full can, and I'm paying $7 for that, that's not cool.
Yeah, that'll be $12.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, sorry, I didn't mean to get off on the sports thing. Sportsums.
Sports ball.
Yes.
Oh. Well, that's cool. I'm glad you guys had an awesome metal scene. We actually, in Norman, we grew up with a pretty decent metal scene, I feel like. And it was really because there were just some bands that were, doing really good at that time in the area. I honestly don't think it's really quite going on like it was, because I'm always trying to look up local metal bands, and I really don't find too many of them around here anymore. Some up in the city. But as far as Norman, we had, 2 or 3 of them that would always be kind of going at the same time, and they'd be shows almost every weekend, and the same 50, 60 people showed up at these shows, and it was always a really good time hanging out with those guys. So
yeah, and ours is kind of building back up. I don't know if it was like right before the COVID time. It felt like the metal scene was really dying out. Like you'd get a lot of indie rock, hard rock, and stuff like that, which is all good and fine. But the shows, that a lot of us want to see is we miss those metal shows and all the adrenaline and all the energy. And it's nice to finally see that start popping back up. You're seeing a lot more of the OG metal bands from Omaha or the surrounding areas popping back up. And you're seeing a lot of newer metal bands pop up with the younger generation as well. And for at least from what I can see, it's not as bad as in my opinion, what it used to be, where people would just kind of complain and bitch. You're like, oh, why is no one coming out and yada yada. More people now with the advancement after COVID with all this bedroom recording stuff, people just have their nose to the grindstone. They're grinding their butts off, and they're doing the best they can to learn and make it work. So I'm really happy to see that happening.
Yeah, I've said it before too here that COVID did something to people, and within the music world and metal especially, just because I see it so much more closer, metal took off. And once COVID kind of lifted and everybody went back to work, it's just been climb ever since. And I mean, it wasn't like an overnight jump, but I mean, I went to 3 or 4 shows, right there after COVID ban was lifted, and I was kind of like, oh my gosh, because all these great bands just all of a sudden, some of them were canceled shows that had been rescheduled, and then other ones were, just new shows that had gotten scheduled, and that was around the time, which I don't know if it's still a deal, but it was around the time a lot of the bands were complaining about the house wanting some of their merch sales.
Yep.
And a lot of these bands were like, that's never been a thing, but then all of a sudden these concert venues, they realized that, man, we're actually hosting a lot more shows. And so I think that went away. So any bands out there, if you're still paying for that, you should probably let them know that that's not cool. But
especially when you got, the sound guy that's back there on his phone, he's not adjusting sounds, or, there's an issue on stage and no one's making an attempt to swap out cables or anything like that.
Yeah, it's not like he's Dime's guitar tech, right? Back there doing the whammy. Yeah. So, anyways,
yeah. During that COVID stuff too, I always called it the rise of the bedroom guitars, because at least to me, I started seeing all these crazy guitar players come out of nowhere, not in a band, all just solo artists, and just for a little bit, I was like, man, I might put my guitar down, because holy crap, this 13-year-old over here just out shredded the heck out of me.
Yeah, it's like people learned how to do something with that extra time that they had. And so many people use that money that they got, right? From their stimulus. I mean, if they could get their hands on it, they had some extra cash. So if they ever wanted a guitar, they went out and got. Some people got bread machines. Some people got guitars.
Stock up on them air fryers.
Heck yes.
And I think playing into that too is a lot of people were angry during COVID. You get locked up in your house, family members just start butting heads with people, and at its core, metal is, extreme, emotionally, angry music, really, right? It just kind of, they go hand in hand. So I think it helped inspire a lot of people too. Just so many people being locked up with technology at their fingertips and advancing quickly, as things like that do, or just like Zoom became a thing and Microsoft Teams, all these video meetings like what we're doing right now, these like virtual meetings like just took off, and being able to be in a room together while not being in a room together just kind of made things happen. So
Exactly.
I think it all kind of played a part. But
And like you said, music being so emotional, and the emotion that everybody had was depression, sadness, or anger. That was what they were going through. So here comes the metal.
Well, and I think to some extent maybe it was kind of needed because we all know a lot of musicians, myself included, sometimes we don't want to take the time to practice, and being locked up in your house, what else is there to do except practice?
Yeah, no joke. For sure. Well, all right, Brando.
Zoomy.
What do you got?
Matthew, as a guitar player, who would you say are some of your like major influences? Like kind of drove you to learn guitar. I know you said Lamb of God earlier, but just fill us in on who drives you to write and play guitar.
Weird enough, I think still to this day my biggest guitar influence is Ian DeSaw. He's from a Canadian neo-punk rock band called Billy Talent, and it's just four members in it. Drummer, bass, guitar, and vocalist. And because they didn't have that second guitar, the way he would play in that almost classical sense, to where he's playing in two voices, but still like punk rock riffs and stuff, that always intrigued me. How he was making it sound so full, like there's several, like two guitar parts going on, but just that one guitar is doing it, because they don't use backing tracks or anything like that. So a lot of my chord choices or like phrasings or anything like that, a lot of that still comes from his writing back from like a long time ago, like Billy Talent 2 album, long time ago, hearing it, and just that the sound to where you can get the elements of punk, but it also had that really like it moved a lot, so it had that classical part to it, and I really love that. For the shredding side, I would say not that I can play his stuff, but Jason Richardson has always been very interesting to watch. I really like when he does his riff breakdowns. I've had taken lessons. I kind of dropped off for a little bit just because I've been kind of running low on cash for all the band stuff. But it was cool correlating the stuff from guitar lessons and some of the light music theory to what he was explaining, to where it was getting to the point where I was kind of able to understand what he was explaining. Not that I could play this stuff, but it was just interesting, his thought process behind it, and that kind of influenced me to think a little bit more about the riffs instead of just having the drummer play something or putting on some E-kit like looper and trying to write a riff. And then for the gent side, I would have to say, because I really like the groove, the percussiveness of gent genre, or whatever they want to call it now. John Brown. He's been a pretty big influence in a lot of with the simple techniques, like downstroke whenever you can. Here you can make this 4/4 bar sound like a different tag signature, just where you make it sound like the downbeat is. Cool things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very cool. So I know you have. I think you said you guys have a third song in the works, right? Did you
Yes,
mention?
we do.
I know you have two released, and you mentioned a third one. Are you guys gearing up for like a full album recording? Are you shooting for an EP, or are you just going to kind of do singles? Like, what are you guys planning?
So after we drop this third single, so keep your eyes peeled for the beginning of December for that one. We are planning on releasing a 5-song EP. We were kind of going back and forth because we like the releasing as singles kind of thing, and then the last song, then just all wrap it up as a EP. But this one we might take the extra time, so it'd be a little bit before we release it, but take a little bit extra time and just release all 5 at once, and then hopefully that gives us some time to be creating some media like music videos or lyric videos or other kind of content wrapped off of it. So these first 3, they've been really fun, but we've also learned a lot on how we need to operate as a band and everything. Even though it's kind of been spaced out through this whole year, everything has felt like we've just been like grind. If it's not practicing or writing or recording, it's learning how to do this content stuff.
It can be very time consuming, just the social media part alone. For sure.
Trying to keep up with social media trends and like, make things go viral and all that's like, it's just a whole different like study on its own.
Yeah, and every time I'm just looking at the trends and trying to figure it out or trying to learn the algorithm, I just feel a little bit of my soul die every time.
Yeah. Your brain
because
rots.
it does. It does.
Absolutely. Your brain is just rotting, but you have to do it.
Man, it's like even just editing video, I've learned that, you know what it reminds me of? Editing video reminds me of whenever I took an econ class in college online. And the professor, what he did was he had all these lessons pre-recorded on videos. And they're basically like YouTube videos. I'm sure YouTube was a thing back then, but it was back before people would just put stuff on YouTube and then embed it, into their lessons or sites. And so, anyways, I remember that I would be taking all these econ notes, and it would be like a 15-minute video, and you're like, all right, I got to watch this 15-minute video tonight. And you would think, I'll be done with this in no time. And then like 3 hours later and like 3 pages of notes, you're like with a bunch of pausing and rewinding, and then you're just like, golly, am I ever going to get through this video? And so even with editing, you think like, oh, I've only got like 10 more minutes to edit. And it's like, it seems like, oh, there's another hour right there of just,
easy.
like listening to it over and over and over again and making sure, it's a little bit easier with the interviews, because with the interviews, I try to edit like 0. Most of the things I try to like edit out are like background noises and whatnot, but I don't like to edit out any of the conversation. I like it to be like as full and complete as possible. So it is a little bit easier than just doing like just sound, where you're having to make sure the sound's coming through the right way. But, I checked out some of that DAW video that you had, and you guys had like, it was 5 or 6 different vocal tracks that you were running again on that Seeker video. And actually, I don't know if I didn't talk about it since we hit the record button, I don't think, but the DAW video where you're doing the Seeker is what it is. And what the funniest part about all that was for me? I don't know if any other bassists who watched that video, if you haven't seen it, check it out. Follow Burial Path. Check them out on their YouTube page. This video's out there, and there is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there is one track for bass.
there is. Before we, and I think that was because the DI got lost, because our session bassist in Norway, it's Emil Bringsley. He runs his own recording studio up there, but he always provided us with super high bass quality. And usually I like to mix the process, and have a little bit more of the higher end, and then the DI for the low end kind of thump. Well, I don't know what happened to the DI, so that's how the bass track ended up in that one. But I can't remember if I went into it, but we definitely did a lot of more like widening and stuff on it to kind of beef it up, because, again, usually we have 2 tracks for it, but don't know what happened to that DI for that one.
Well, I thought it was funny being, like a bassist who I'm usually like, even back to my own recording experience, it would always be like, the guitarist and the drummers, they'd work so hard and the vocalists would work so hard. And then as long as I could play my part, I was just sitting there and I'd thump around a little bit and I'd be like, all right, I think it's good, guys. And so they'd have, all these different tracks where they'd layer this on that, or they'd pan this to the right and pan that to the left. And I would just be, here's my direct in bass line, for the most part. Exactly. Exactly. I mean,
funny or not, though, like the most 2 important elements in all of our songs is the drums and bass. Everything else is just kind of the sprinkle on top. But if those two, those 2 get scrutinized the most when we're going through our tracks.
It's the foundation.
Yep, can't beat the backbone.
Yeah, I know, right? Carrying your rhythm, carrying your groove. And like
all
you
that,
said,
all the low end. If you want to feel in your gut, that's
it's actually awesome that you point that out, because we talk time and time again. At least earlier on, whenever we were doing a lot of just album reviews, and we talk about how like we really liked what a band was putting out, but it might just sound kind of thin, like it just didn't have this. Brandon coined the term, which is genius, fullness about it. And so Actually, I don't know if Brandon coined it, but it sounded good enough.
That's not wrong. That yeah. If that bass is lacking, then because when we have our pre-pro kind of demos, when I send it out and everyone can start writing, kind of learning the parts. I don't have a bass rig that sounds good, so I just detune with my guitar and just kind of play the root notes. But even then, it just sounds lame because it's missing so much of that low end. So we're always just dying, waiting for Emil to send over his tracks because then it starts sounding like a real song.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot of times I hate to say it, but like I'll start listening to a band and I will lose interest if it's not like what Zoomy said, like full enough. Like if it just sounds too thin, it's like it just doesn't have the heart to it that like really speaks to me. I like that chunky sound, even on shreddy stuff. Like I just like it to sound full and like just there. Like a lot of times there's recordings that just sound kind of thin, even with the bass in it. Like for some reason it's got a lot of high end and not enough low, and it just sounds crispy, which is cool, but it just feels like something's missing, Oh,
and yes.
Sometimes that will turn me off like faster than anything else on an album. I'll be like, God, that really should be louder. Like that should just really punch me in the chest when I turn this up in my truck, and it just doesn't, and it could, like, so bad.
It's like, if only they just had this one thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I'm like, well, maybe a lot of times it might come down just to either the experience with if they're doing at-home production or finances, if they're actually going to a studio and just not having the time to beef it up the way that they need to and take the time to listen to it on different speakers and in different locations and see how it's being interpreted by devices. I'm
glad you bring that up, because that going through device, that's the only time I wish everyone lived here for when we reviewed it, because someone's listening on their phone, someone's listening on headphones, someone actually has a pair of studio monitors, and when I send out for a review and I get like a bajillion timestamps back, like especially on the Seeker when we were first kind of learning how to review things together. And also, granted, I was still learning how to translate bass, because again, we scrutinize the bass so much, and we're in my room. It's all right, but it's not treated, and so I have all this bass buildup. And so when I first did it, I had a tendency to have the bass really low, and if I should take a screenshot of how many times I bounced out audio, there must have been like 20 some times of us trying to learn like how to translate the bass from this room to where it sounds good on phone speakers, headphones, and a car speakers. But yeah, that device translation, what a pain in the butt.
But so important.
Yeah, I remember the true test, like when we'd leave, do anything in the studio, was once you get in the truck or the car, or, like get it on a CD and let somebody listen to it in their car on some like an actual system, and like it would sound so perfect in the studio, and then you leave and just be like, what in the fuck? Yeah, it's definitely.
Well, you leave and you remember not everyone has $500 studio monitor speakers to listen to this stuff on, and like they're driving in their Toyota Camry with a low grade audio system,
especially back then. Like whenever we were actually doing this, in the early 2000s, we were driving around these beater cars that were probably 15 years old by then or something, and so you're talking anywhere from like 1985 to 1995, you got, or something. People are driving around listening to vehicles like that, driving around listening through speakers in vehicles like that back in those days, because that was whenever we were doing it. So yeah.
Also bless these auto companies for finally starting to factory put in good speakers and sound system in the cars.
Yeah, it kind of becomes the normal thing, like especially with everything going like the digital, everybody's got like a screen where they can kind of, toggle through all their stuff now. And I mean, I've seen some of the cars and trucks now, and I look at them and I'm like, oh, it's like a spaceship in there, It's like a cockpit, on a like a flight, He's got like all of this stuff, an entire screen in front of him, and yeah, I'm kind of jealous. Mine was nice when I got it. Hey, so on some of the gear that you're running, Are you running your guitar whenever you guys are tracking your guitar? Are you running it in through like effects and then also running it in direct?
Yes. So how I have mine set up is my guitar will go into an active splitter box. That splitter box will send the non-active split to my Axe Effects, and the Axe Effects will get one of the inputs on my interface, and then the active DI from the splitter box will go into the other input, so I can get these really, really good transients for my DI. And then I still get my process, and that's been big because before other bands, when we would send things out, that would always be the biggest kind of gripe from the producers, like, these DIs suck. And then I started doing my homework and found this, what is it? A Rupert Neve Designs splitter box, and that thing just works wonders on the DI. Like, you can listen to the DI and actually hear the song instead of just hearing.
Yeah, I never realized how important DIs are, but the more and more videos that I watch, they're always bringing in a direct.
Exactly, and I think the big thing on that is if you get good enough on tracking on your own, and you can send out good DIs, you can send it to a studio, bypass all that extra time by hour for the tracking, and this, a big studio can run it through their pro rig. And now you got this awesome sounding track, but all you had to send in was, you had to take the time just to send them good DIs. I love that option.
And then so are they or you or whoever's doing it post-production putting effects onto those direct tracks, or?
The DIs will just stay muted. So when we finish a track, we'll save all the stems kind of on the cloud, so if we ever want to come back and revisit them, because right now we're doing all our own tracking, mixing, and mastering. So if we ever, constantly learning how to make it better. So if we ever want to revisit them and re-release a master that sounds a lot better, we have the option to now.
But the splitter allows you to record your direct while you're also recording through your interface, and I guess you're playing through your interface. You're getting an effects through there. That's your Axe, right?
No, my Axe Effects is a separate little box basically that just has all the guitar effects on it.
But you're running through that, and then also through your interface.
Yep.
Okay.
And because the interface isn't anything special, it's one of those cheapy Scarlett 2i2s, so just $150. And when we're doing our rig rundown, we were trying to show that you don't need, like, it never hurts to have the nice equipment because it sounds really good right out the bat, but you don't need a really expensive equipment to start making your own music. Like, we're doing it with an Axe Effects and probably one of the cheapest interfaces you can buy.
Yeah, they sell a lot of those Scarletts, but there's a reason, man. A lot of people can make some good sounds out of them.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It might take a little bit extra more time, but they are not breaking the bank on, $1,000+ interfaces.
Yeah, because a lot of people I've heard using those, what are they, like the Apollos?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's loving those Apollos. Maybe not as much for metal, but either way, those things, just getting the single input, you're going to spend close to $1,000, and it's like, I don't even know if that's worth it. I can only bring in one track at a time, like one input at a time.
And I had to really read into it. Those interfaces will only work with certain chipsets, so like processor chips. I run AMD because I like the game as well, and that Apollo does not work with that chipset at all.
Good to know. Good to know.
Well, I'm a total amateur when it comes to what y'all are talking about. So for anyone else out there that's not really keen on all the terminology and stuff, like DI is direct in, right?
Yes.
So, okay, so when you say, like, you're going to send stuff to, like, if you were going to send something off to a pro studio and you send them good DIs, what makes it a good DI? Is it, like, the performance and capturing it without plucking the wrong strings and shit like that? Or is there something else that goes into making sure you're capturing a good DI, direct in recording?
I would say that's always the cornerstone, is getting the better the performance, the better, anything you're going to put out. But a good DI too is sometimes whatever splitter box you have, I've started gaining a liking to these active ones because it kind of boosts the signal a little bit. Because again, if you have those good transients, you can kind of see on the grid, like, hey, I did good here. Like, sometimes if it's not audibly close enough to hear the mess up. But say it's really important, you got quad guitars going for chugs, and you have all four just slightly before or after each other. That's the whole difference from it sounding pretty good to it sounding pro when everything's right on with each other. So that would be what I'm considering a good DI, that it's got good transients, it's loud enough that you can hear, and so when they reamp it, they have a good signal to reamp. But like you mentioned, you can't you can't polish a turd. A good performance will take you a long ways.
Well, just so you know, you can polish a turd, but it's still a turd. It's kind of shiny.
Yeah, you can do it. You can do it. It just doesn't.
You might get your hands. Your tools might get a little gunky and your hands get a little messy, but hey, your own.
Oh gosh.
Oh man. All right. Well, I was wanting to ask. So is there 4 members in Burial Path?
Correct.
Can you tell us who they are and what they do in the band?
Alrighty, we'll start out at the top. Our vocalist, Aisha Finlaker, she's the Texan. She does vocals. She also does a lot with like song structure. So again, like the Luminary and the Seeker, they were kind of older songs, but right off the bat, she was able to get input. She's like, I'm not really feeling this part going from this to this. How about we try this instead? So she actually helps with part of the songwriting and song structure, as well as she's very good at critiquing. She's good at critiquing her own, but she doesn't shy away and be like, hey, that didn't sound good. We should probably redo that part again. The next one is Gage Eden. He's our drummer. He does pretty darn good too. Obviously his main focus is on drums, but where he's just flying through or writing and stuff, he's pretty good at, he'll write something out, say it's MIDI, he'll learn it, then he'll come in on the real kit and do it. But he's not afraid just to stop what he's doing. He's like, this, say this fill, like the cadence of it doesn't fit with her vocal cadence, and he'll just rewrite whole parts to make it fit. He's also pretty good at throwing in ideas for post-production. He calls it the glistening. But it's simple ideas that I think sometimes I get too caught up in convoluted mindsets, that it's nice that he's able to step back, look at something simple, explain it simple. It's like, we should do this here for this transition, or I think this kind of, part with the strings would really accent here. So he's good at doing that. And then our final member is Jeremy Childers. He's the other guitarist. He also does quite a bit of music production. He does it for his other bands, and he actually does side work too, tracking, mixing, recording, and producing other bands. And so it's always a good help to have him, again, just kind of evaluate the song structure. Does this make sense? Does it not make sense? And then all collectively, where I might be the one working in the studio, but it's everyone's ears kind of guiding me where to turn the knobs to make it sound good. So everyone does well on using their ears, not shying away, being like, that sounds like trash, we need to redo it, or anything like that.
Cool. So you said the other guitar player is Jeremy, right? So you said?
Correct. Yep.
So if he also does production and stuff, you guys ever butt heads on procedure, or just like kind of the way that you like to record or track something versus the way he likes to?
This is probably the first band I've been in that we haven't really butt heads on really anything. Like, we'll be like, hey, maybe you should try this. And he's very good about that. Like, if he sees I'm frustrated on a part because I don't know how to make the guitars cut through this part with all this post-production, he'll kind of let me cool off, and then he'll be like, hey, why don't you try this? And I'll try it, and like, that son of a gun, he was right this whole time.
That's good. That's cool, man. It sounds like you guys are all clicking and on the same wavelength, and just like, sounds like y'all are in a good place as a band and as a group, with a collective mindset. So I think that's awesome. Like, I think your songs sound great. And on the 2 singles you have, is that tracked with all 4 of you, like, performing your parts? Like, is that, you guys tracked all those together, or is any of it just pre-production? Like, are they programmed drums, or is that a live drummer on there?
these first 3 singles are going to be programmed drums just for the time's sake and for our for our own money, just because of how much we were dumping on these music videos and things. But the EP will have the actual real drums, because you just can't beat real drums, in my opinion. Yeah. As far as the rest, I just tracked everything again, because a lot of these songs are pretty old, so they were already. I had been working on them for a couple of years already, so they were already kind of, everything else is kind of done. The only thing I'll say is the Luminary and the new single coming up. My roommate Jordan Rush, he did all the arrangements for the post production, and that guy is a freak of nature when it comes to arrangements. Because sometimes he gets bored and we're like, I really like the Spider-Man theme song from this game, and he'll just take his plugins and just recreate it, and you really can't tell the difference between what the game producer audio put out versus what he rearranged.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's really neat. And you get like so much better and better by doing like little one-off like fun projects like that really are for nothing, but you just learn so much experience, and then whenever you're actually really doing something, you're like, oh, I know how to do that.
It is very interesting watching his mentality as he goes into these arrangements, because he's also my guitar teacher. And so not only is he teaching me, at my level, building me up in music theory and just writing and song structure and, technicality as well, just watching how he does these arrangements when he just feels like doing an arrangement, and him explaining it is like, it feels like I'm in a science class, but it's super intriguing watching how he goes about it.
Yeah, I bet.
So, Matthew, this is kind of like off topic a little bit, but I'm curious. Do you have a day job? What do you do for a living?
I do. I work for the National Guard full time as in the Surf P. So that's their CBRN Enhanced Force Response Package, and CBRN stands for Chemical, Biological, Radiological, and Nuclear. So it's a homeland response team. So if there's like a natural disaster, or Lord forbid, like they try to drop a nuke here in the U.S., we got all these teams around the U.S. that'll respond to that. So they got, the Med-L for medics, FCERT, search and extraction, decontamination, everything like that.
Very cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
I could only imagine the training that goes into that.
Get used to being in those biosuits, because they get nice and toasty warm.
Yeah, like,
oh, man.
brush your teeth.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing this Surf P gig for about 2 years, almost 3 years now, but been serving since 2011.
Very cool. Well, thanks for your service,
yeah,
man.
thank you.
Thanks for the support.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So that's like like Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, or you got weird hours, working weekends, or?
For the most part, it's just like a normal job. Because really, what I dab in is logistics and maintenance for the like equipment and personnel. But when we come to these bigger exercises and stuff, especially when we do interagency exercises, that's where it gets a lot longer, to where like, hey, we'll be up at 4 a.m. and we might not be done working till like 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and you just wait, rinse and repeat till the exercise is done.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That sounds like an interesting job.
It is.
Sure.
It's way outside my wheelhouse, but ironically, it keeps everything exciting and fresh. It's not the same monotony over and over and again.
Yeah. So my dad is retired Air Force, and
Heck yeah.
if there's one thing I learned growing up and just being around a lot of people in the military and services like what you're doing, is even if it's not in your wheelhouse, the branch trains you and they make it your wheelhouse. So it doesn't need to be your wheelhouse at first, right? Like they'll show you what to do. They'll make sure that you know what you're doing.
And it's pretty cool, getting to go on the government's dime to go to these schools. And, a side part of that's really cool is like the traveling to get to these schools. So it's a school. So in the afternoons, a lot of times, if you don't have to study for anything, there's ample time to go out and kind of explore these different cities and places, which, normally I wouldn't have the money or time to be able to do.
Yeah. That's awesome.
For sure.
So What places have you gone for that? Like so far, like what cities have you been able to go to?
Uh, the biggest one is like DC, Las Vegas.
Nellis Air Force Base, I'm guessing in Las Vegas.
Very close to it.
Yeah.
I think the National Guard one is kind of across that interstate from it, but it's pretty darn
okay.
close. I think those are, say, the biggest. That Virginia, like, the military has taken me through almost every state so far. The only one, and the one I really want to go to, is Hawaii, but they're like, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
One of these days, buddy.
Yeah,
We'll get there.
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
That's cool, man. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about your non-metal side with us. Let people know what you do on, when you're not producing and writing burial path stuff. So, for the EP that you guys are that you got planned, are you like the primary songwriter? Do you guys all collectively sit together and write, or what's your all's creative process?
So right now I'm the primary, but there's a lot of times to where I purposely will not finish a song because I want people to sit down, the rest of them are sit down and I want their input. So like I'm getting ready to go down to Texas to help Aisha with her home setup, but I'm going to leave one of my 8 strings with her because I was like, hey, you don't need to be crazy at guitar, but the basics on playing guitar. Like, here, I'm going to leave this with you. Here, write some stuff, come up with some ideas that you think would sound cool with like how you do vocally, and then we can find a way to incorporate that in. Jeremy's very good at songwriting too, and Gage is really, I love it because he doesn't even need to have the music. Sometimes he'll just shoot me over drum tracks. And for me personally, if I have, drum tracks go off of the song, it just basically writes itself.
That's awesome. Very cool. I think I'm out of like our formal questions, but I think we were going to play a song, right, Zoomy?
Yeah. We were the newest single, Burial Path, that they've released. So, they've got one that they're going to be coming out with here in December, so keep an eye out for that. But the most recent one is the Luminary. And so we're going to blast that here for you right meow. That's it. That's it. Great song, everybody. That was an awesome song. You know, we appreciate you letting us share that song. We hope everybody else is just as excited to hear it. I know I listened to it over and over and over again. Both of those singles, actually. I couldn't get enough of them. And that's actually what made me explore the YouTube channel just a little bit more so that I could see some of those videos you were putting out there where you're running through your gear, you're talking about all the DAW like setups and how you have like all your tracks organized and everything in there. So it's just all some really impressive stuff.
Yeah, and again, the focus was just to show like it doesn't have to be super expensive, and it doesn't have to. It's not super crazy. It's just a whole bunch of small tasks in the DAW, because we really want to promote that. Like, hey, you can get some of this cheap equipment, and you can be writing songs. You can be putting songs out. It doesn't have to be through a studio anymore.
What is the DAW that you use? Which one?
It's Reaper, and and it's just Reaper because I could get a license for $60.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way to go because you can still use plugins and all the things you need to. So why not?
Yeah, I do like it. It's a fully open source. So for any of the programming nerds out there, you can completely reconfigure it to your liking. And a lot of people already have. Like some people have configured it to be exactly like Pro Tools, but it's just Reaper.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool stuff. So check out their stuff. Check out the videos that he's got out there. Not just to hear the songs, but, you know, the music videos are also pretty cool, too. And then you might learn something from the instructionals. And there's also a guitar playthrough, and there's also, I think there's a drum fill track that, you know, is that Gage that puts that on?
Yep, we're just kind of, I wanted him to have some more screen time, so that was like one of the first easy things we could think of, but, you know, working up to having him do drum playthroughs as well.
Yeah, I think there's also a few vocal playthroughs, right?
Yeah, a big one because and you got love and hate the internet. The thing that Aisha gets the most is that she's faking her lows because people can't accept that she can hit those lows. And so we always like to release the isolated vocal tracks, but then we also just released one that's just camera audio from her phone just to show like this isn't fake. There's no special processing on these tracks. She just has a talent, and people just can't accept that she as a girl can hit those lows lower than some guys can hit.
It's definitely possible.
And it's pretty low. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
it's so funny, all the little trolls out there. Way to go, trolls.
Yeah, she's a killer.
Yeah.
She's a beast.
She is, and it's crazy. Just her personality is like she's this demon on stage, and you get off. It's just the sweetest person you'd ever meet. It's the contrast is crazy.
That's cool.
That's metal, man. That's metal all over right there. Everybody's cool, you know, but on stage they're just like this entirely different thing, you know, and they put on quite a show. So, you know, man, looking forward to the EP you guys got coming out next. Really excited to hear that. Also excited to hear, actually I meant the new single coming out, but also, yes, excited about the EP that's coming down the road. And ready to maybe see you guys play some shows. Hopefully come through OKC. That'd be great.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do. It's we've been very, very excited leading up to being able to play live shows, because by the time we play, that's about 2 years we've been working together as a group, but haven't had the opportunity to do a live show yet. But the flip side with Aisha being down in Texas, we're trying to get enough shows together that's worth her while to make the trek up here, or us to make the trek down there to do the shows.
For sure. Well, so I actually have a geographical question.
Alrighty, hit me with it.
So, bison or beef?
Me personally, beef.
Going with the beef. All right. This
Nebraska,
is great.
beef. It's what's for dinner tonight.
But Omaha is known for all their bison too up there, right?
Yep, the Omaha steaks up here. They got real good cuts.
Yeah, I think it's the first time I ever ate a bison steak or something bison. I think was whenever I took a work trip to Omaha one time.
What'd you think?
Oh yeah, I mean it was fine. I'm cool with it. It was great. Somebody else bought it, so that automatically
Even better.
It makes it taste way better automatically. But yeah, I'm a fan. I'll eat it. But anytime I'm given the choice, I usually choose beef because I'm also an accountant, and bison's always more expensive. They're always like, yeah, for an extra $2 you get the bison burger, and I'm like, I'll stick with a regular burger.
Yep, I don't know what it is. I just like beef. It's been like it's like home station for me. I know what I'm getting.
There you go. There you go, man. Well, that's cool. I always throw in a little random food question. I feel like it's become a food theme here lately. That's kind of just what it's been. So, anyway,
I think
there
maybe
you
you're
have
just
it.
hungry.
Oh, I'm always hungry. You know,
That's my secret.
I just look skinny on this screen, but I'm really not.
Don't go in the grocery store hungry. Don't podcast hungry, man.
Man, that's where some of my best meals have come from. Going into the grocery store hungry.
Oh yes.
Well, yeah.
Oh, Matthew. Well, thank you so much. You know, we're so grateful for the time, you know, that you took tonight just to hang out with us for a second. Like I said, there's so much more that we could just nerd out on, especially with all the techie side of what you do, because there's really a lot to it, you know. And if people go and they check out the tracks, they're really going to get a chance to, you know, experience that, because there's definitely something in that music for all metal lovers. And I think that's why it goes good with, you know, what you guys are trying to do, is you're really reaching a lot of people. And, you know, hopefully that just continues to grow and grow. So everybody out there, please, I've said it, check them out. And they are just going to get better and better, because what they're doing is way cool. So thanks for hanging with us. And I think that's about all the questions we have. Unless, Greg, did you have any that you wanted to throw in?
No, I'm good to go, man. I think Brando covered it all.
All right.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. I'm very impressed by what you guys are doing, and I'm looking forward to see what happens for you guys. I think there's big things in y'all's future, and hit us up when you're fixing to put out that EP, man. You can come back on and hang out with us again and tell us about it, you know, and hype you up. Get that thing released with a strong following.
Yeah, maybe I can twist everyone else's ears so they can get on here too.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Heck yeah, man.
So thank you so much for taking the time tonight. You know, like Zoomy said, and you know, talk again soon.
Absolutely.
Alrighty.
Yes, all that. And without further ado, Metal Block over and out.
Later.
Peace out.